Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our Madam CRG, Professor Madya, Dr. Aida Maria binti Ismail. We are from Group 3 and we will be presenting our movie review. The movie that we chose is The Devil Wears Prada. And these are the group members. The Devil Wears Prada movie about a girl named Andrea who gets a job as an assistant to a very tough and demanding boss named Miranda, who is in charge of a fashion magazine. Andrea tries to do her job well, but it's very hard because Miranda is very picky and always wants things done perfectly. As Andrea works in the fashion industry, she starts to question if this is the really life that she wants and struggle to balance her job with her personal life. In the end, Andrea makes a decision about what she wants to do with her life. The story is about ambition, identity, and the price of success. The two main stakeholders in this movie are Miranda Priestley and Andrea Sack. Miranda Priestley is the editor-in-chief of Runway, a prestigious fashion magazine. She is portrayed as a powerful and demanding figure in the fashion industry. Miranda is highly respected and feared by employees who often scramble to meet her exacting standards. Miranda is also known for her cold demeanor and her tendency to criticize her staff without offering any praise. However, it's important to note that Miranda's behavior is not simply an expression of her personality. Instead, it's a reflection of a high-pressure and competitive environment of the fashion industry. Miranda is constantly under scrutiny from her competitors and readers, and she must maintain a flawless image to keep her position as editor-in-chief. Miranda's relentless pursuit of perfection is also fueled by her own personal history, which includes years of hard work and sacrifice to where she gets it. Despite her tough exterior, Miranda is a complex character who also struggles with personal issues. Her job takes a toll on her personal life, and she often finds herself making sacrifices for her career. Miranda's relationship with Andy, her assistant, is also an important part of her character arc. Over the course of the movie, Miranda comes to recognize Andy's talent and becomes more respectful of her as an employee. Andy is a recent college graduate who takes a job as Miranda's assistant at Runway. Initially, she is uninterested in fashion and sees the job as a means to an end. However, as she becomes more involved in the fashion world and works closely with Miranda, she begins to see the value in the industry and the impact that Miranda has on it. Andy is portrayed as a principled and ethical character who initially clashes with Miranda's demand. She finds herself struggling to balance her personal values with the demands of her job. For example, she is asked to do tasks that go against her own personal beliefs, such as stealing a manuscript from an author. As the movie progresses, Andy begins to develop her own sense of style and identity within the fashion industry. She becomes more confident in her abilities and starts to recognize the value of her work. However, this also leads to a rift between her and her friends and family who see her as having sold out to the industry fashion. Overall, the relationship between Miranda and Andy is central to the movie's themes. It highlights the tension between personal value and professional ambitions, and the challenges of navigating a highly competitive and demanding industry.
So in this section, I would like to present to you about ethical dilemma. So first of all, what is ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemma is a situation in which there are two or more competing ethical principles or value, and there is no clear choice that would satisfy all of them. Ethical dilemma can arise from many contexts, from personal decision to business and professional setting. So in this section, I would like to showcase to you about two different ethical dilemma. There is one from Miranda and the second one is from Andy. The first ethical dilemma in this movie is when Andy is presented with the choice of going to Paris with Miranda. So Andy is contemplating whether to accept the offer or to reject the offer. And if she accepts the offer, she will get to keep her job as Miranda assistant. However, Emily will be upset with the decision because Emily will not get the chance to go to Paris Fashion Week. However, if Andy decided to reject the offer, then Andy will lose the job as Miranda assistant. However, Emily will be happy because she will get the opportunity to go to Paris Fashion Week. So this is the first ethical dilemma in this movie. Okay. The second ethical dilemma in this movie is when Miranda chose Jacqueline to become the new president of James Hall International instead of Nigel. So why this is an ethical dilemma? So this is an ethical dilemma because if Miranda choose Nigel to become the president of James Hall International, then Jacqueline will replace Miranda in her position in runway. However, if Miranda chooses Jacqueline to become the president of James Hall International, then Miranda will get to keep her position in runway. However, this will be a sad news for Nigel because he has been granted an approval to be the president of James Hall International. However, Miranda didn't fulfill her promise.
A fundamental tenet of deontology is the idea that there is a right way and a wrong way to behave. During one point in the film, Miranda urged Andy to secure the unpublished Harry Potter book at that time before the series were even completed. When Miranda sees that Andy is unable to fulfill this work, she will have an excuse to terminate Andy from her job. But Andy, being the most hardworking person and determined in completing her job, she succeeded in finding the manuscript. And what makes the situation more fascinating is that the fact that it allows us to compare and contrast two different approaches to deontology. But the real problem is deciding which option is the best. From one view, it is unethical for Miranda to ask Andy for such a favor, giving the legal protection for the unpublished work. And from the hero perspective, Andy, she willingly agreed to the favor even knowing that it was almost impossible to do. On the other hand, Andy continues to search for the unpublished manuscript while knowing that it will be unethical for her to do so. On the other hand, Andy continues to search for the unpublished manuscript while knowing that it will be unethical for her to do so, but because it is her responsibility as Miranda's secretary. In this issue, we should adopt view with harsher penalties. Following the first set of laws and regulation, we can see that Andy may face a fine or legal action since her actions were illegal. In terms of her duty, she may be dismissed by Miranda. When we look at both punishments, the penalty for breaking the rules and regulations is clearly more severe since Andy offers to help Miranda look for the unpublished manuscript. We may argue that her behavior violates deontological principle.
So now I will explain about consequentialist by villain. It is an actions taken by the villains, which is Miranda, from a consequentialist point of view. Consequentialism is a moral theory that evaluates the morality of an action based on its consequences or outcomes. In other words, an action is morally right if it leads to the best possible outcomes. So the first point is Miranda runs her company in her own self-interest. As we all know, Miranda's primary goal is to produce a successful fashion magazine that appeals to its readers and generates revenue for the company. To achieve this, she often prioritizes the end result over the means by which she achieves it. For example, she is willing to be ruthless with her employees and demand long hours and difficult tasks if it means producing a better product. The next point is Miranda willing to make difficult decisions that may negatively impact others in the short term but lead to long-term success. For example, she fires her first assistant, which is Emily, when she fails to meet her high standards, despite the emotionally toll it takes on Emily. Miranda may argue that this decision was necessary for the success of the magazines and ultimately the well-being of its employees in the long run. In conclusion, Miranda Price Lee's actions in The Devil Wears Prada could be seen as aligned with a consequentialist approach, prioritizing the end result over the means to achieve it. However, this approach may raise ethical concern, as it can justify actions that may be seen as immoral or harmful to others in the pursuit of success.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am Amir Haziq and I will continue on the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule is a moral principle that states one should treat others as they would like to be treated. In the context of The Devil Wears Prada, the principle can be applied to the character of Miranda Priestley. Throughout the movie, Miranda's behavior towards her employees can be seen as harsh and demanding. However, Miranda expects nothing less than perfection from her employees, just as she demands of herself. In this sense, she follows the golden rule by treating her employees as she would like to be treated with respect and professionalism. For example, when Andy Sachs, a young journalist, joins the team as Miranda's assistant, Miranda puts her through a rigorous and challenging process. Miranda expects Andy to be available to her at all times to anticipate her needs and to perform every task perfectly. Miranda may seem harsh and demanding, but this is the only way she knows how to get the best out of her team. Another example is when Emily, Miranda's senior assistant, becomes ill and unable to attend a critical event. Miranda turns to Andy to fill in for Emily, even though Andy is inexperienced and not familiar with the event. However, by trusting Andy and giving her a chance, Miranda is treating Andy as she would like to be treated herself, which is with trust and respect. In summary, the Golden Rule principle can be seen in the character of Miranda Priestley through her high expectations and demands for her employees, as well as her trust and respect towards those who prove themselves capable. In The Devil Wears Prada, the character of Miranda Priestley is often portrayed as a villain, and her actions and behavior can evoke a range of negative emotions in both the characters and the audience. Here are some examples of feelings of villainy associated with Miranda Priestley. The first one is manipulation. Miranda is known for her ability to manipulate those around her to get what she wants. She often uses her power and influence to force her subordinates to do things they may not want to do. For example, she convinced Andy to skip her father's birthday dinner and attend fashion event instead, despite the fact that Andy had promised her family she would be there. The second one is arrogance. Miranda's sense of superiority and entitlement can be off-putting to those around her. She often belittles and dismisses her subordinates, making them feel insignificant and unworthy. For example, she criticized Andy's wardrobe and scoffed at her lack of knowledge about the fashion industry. Last but not least, coldness. Miranda is portrayed as emotionally distant and unfeeling, which can make her seem like a heartless villain. She rarely shows empathy and compassion towards her subordinates and is often described as being icy or cold. For example, when her longtime colleague Nigel is going through a difficult personal crisis, Miranda shows little concern for her well-being and instead focuses on the upcoming fashion show. Overall, these behaviors and actions contribute to Miranda's portrayal as this villainous character in The Devil Wears Prada and can evoke a range of negative emotion in both the character and the audience.
So what we can conclude from this movie is the first thing is always act justly. One of the lessons from this film is that we should always act fairly to ensure that all sides are satisfied, and the most important thing is not getting hurt with the outcome. The second one is exemplary behavior in the workplace. Both Miranda and Andrea serve as example of how to persevere during difficult times at work. Dealing with tough employer is not an easy task. Despite that, Andrea successfully faces all the challenges and fit herself in the company. She also proved herself that she is worthy in the company till she got to be appointed as a team leader. But that's not the hardest part from Andrea's life. The hardest part of Andrea's life is when she got into divorce, the recent divorce, and this proof that how successful we are in one thing does not guarantee in another. That's all from me.